Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to ARTIVISM, the power of art for social transformation. I believe this is probably our 28th or 29th presentation. We started back in February. We will have an event following Dr. Ruiz's presentation, which will be a celebration of ARTIVISM and what we've done, kind of like a summary. I'd like to introduce the student ambassador today. His name is Charles Herman. He's a junior at Adelphi University. He's a criminal justice major. He's a social justice advocate and a very passionate one at that. He's the criminal justice president, which is now a formal recognized organization at Adelphi University. His first successful, or the club's first successful initiative was a clothing drive where they collected clothing that was donated by Bake Back America, another one of our presenters and collaborators. And the clothing was all set up. Charles, as president, was there every day for 4 days to meet with students that came in that needed professional clothing, but I will leave that to him. He will tell you more about it. So Charles from Washington, DC, take it away.
Thank you, Professor Edge-Loricus. Hi, everyone. So as the professor said, my name is Charles Herman. I'm a social justice advocate. And yes, we did just have a very successful one of what I hope to be many successful clothing boutiques where students come in and they just take whatever they want, as much as they want. Some students ran away with a trash bag full of clothes. And so it's very successful. And if you'd like to be more a part of that initiative and any other criminal justice club initiatives, I will, or the professor can put my contact information in the chat, and feel free to get in touch with me. So this semester, under the direction of Dr. Stephanie Lake, who is a professor and the chair of the criminal justice department, I partook in an independent study which examined the voting rights, or rather the lack thereof, in the United States using historical context. So the Mississippi Plan of 1890. The Jim Crow era laws, the poll taxes, literacy tests. And I drew that comparison to today, where we still see things that look like poll taxes. We still see things that citizenship tests are basically literacy tests to make sure that you're a citizen to vote. And there are a lot of racial discriminatory laws still in place today, even from back when. But I also read The System by Robert Reich, which discusses the gross distribution of wealth, which leads to poverty, which is the source of crime, and other issues that contribute to the systemic injustices disproportionately felt by the BIPOC community. And in my reading, I found some really troubling statistics. So first off, it's important to note that most of us are not living in a democracy. Most of us, unless you're in the top 1%, are living in an oligarchy. And so that is basically where the people create a system in which they themselves are the beneficiaries of. And so it has contributed to this massive divisions of wealth in the United States, which is, I argue, one of the biggest in any developing nation. And so one of the more known oligarchs was Donald Trump. Oligarchs need people who believe in them, who are easy to bribe for votes, who will support them unconditionally. And this is what I argue is one of the many reasons January 6th happened. And as the professor stated, I am from DC. I actually am from I live 5 blocks from the Capitol. So I was impacted severely by those events. However, if oligarchical rule is thought to be illegitimate, such as through protests, Black Lives Matter, or other types of unrest, oligarchies are easy to force down, to lack of a better word, like a house of cards, basically. And so I want to end here. As of 2014, the richest 5% of households, and this is according to the rich get richer and the poor get prison, 5% of households got 21.9% of the wealth, while the bottom 40% of Americans get 11.3%. After World War II, families were able to save up to 9% of their earnings, of their wealth. But by 2008, it was 2.6%. And the reason for that is people, who are in poverty or even middle class people have to work 2-3 jobs before they can make ends meet. But the richer people can go home at 5 p.m. and play soccer with their kids in the yard and have a normal childhood. And so that is really what is wrong with America, and I seek to change it through my research, through my education, and educating others. And I will be presenting that research on this Wednesday, and it will be recorded and posted on the internet. So now I would like to introduce our artivists for today, and the last one, sadly, of fall of 2021, but we'll have many more in the spring. So Yolanda Sealey Ruiz is an award-winning associate professor at the Teachers College, Columbia University. Her research focuses on racial literacy and teacher education, Black girl literacies, and Black and Latinx male high school students. A sought-after speaker on issues of race, culturally responsive pedagogy, and diversity, Sealey Ruiz works with K-12 and higher education school communities to increase their racial literacy knowledge and move toward more equitable school experiences for the Black and Latinx students. Sealey Ruiz appeared in Spike Lee's Two Fists Up, We Gonna Be All Right, a documentary about the Black Lives Matter movement and the campus protests at Mizzou. Her co-authored book with Dr. Detra Price Dennis, Advancing Racial Literacies in Teacher Education Toward Activism for Equity in Digital Spaces, was published in May of 2021. And her first full-length collection of poetry, Love from the Vortex and Other Poems, was published in March of 2021. Her sophomore book of poetry, The Peace Chronicles, was also released then in July of 2021. So welcome, Dr. Sealey Ruiz, and those are some amazing accomplishments. So I'll let you take it away from here.
Charles, thank you so much. I want to thank you, Charles, for your commitment to focusing your major on criminal justice and to shedding light on the deep inequities that are in our society. So thank you for the work that you're doing. I look forward to seeing your presentation. And I want to thank the organizers of ARTIVISM and the incredible presentations you've had. I'm happy to be in the lineup, this being your 28th presentation. And I'm going to share a few things, but then eventually I'm going to come off screen because I want to see your beautiful faces. And since it's a small, intimate group of us, there is something that I'll have us do together, an activity. But I will go ahead and begin by sharing our flow for today. So in thinking about this presentation, it is an honor to be able to speak about my work. But as I teach very interactively, it's important that I pull you into the conversation as well. So when I thought about what this presentation could be today, the 45 minutes that we'll have, I wanted to, and very much in line with my poetry, particularly the Peace Chronicles, I wanted to think about inspirations and ancestors who impact me. And so I'm going to share a little bit about Black artists as activists, talk a little bit about artivism in terms of showing having you listen to two musical pieces to see what you hear across them in terms of artivism speaking about this life and also the next life. Then I'll share some of my poetry continue to share some of my poetry from Love from the Vortex and the Peace Chronicles, specifically as I excavated and explored pain, joy, and liberation. And I'm gonna ask you to make some of your own art, and that we'll take a moment to share it. This is a lot that we're gonna do in 45 minutes. And then we'll have some moments of reflection. But what was important for me was to really do a little bit about a lot today. And that is a little bit sharing about my ancestors, those who inspire me, my journey through writing these 2 books of poetry, your artivist making, and your reflections are important. So let's get started by having you take a moment to think. So I want you to think about, and I think, Charles, you opened up in such a beautiful way of sharing many of the causes that you are concerned about. So I want you to take a quick moment to think, what is your cause? What is that cause that you find yourself contributing to the social justice movement? What takes you to the streets? And know that people choose different causes and they protest in different ways. So I want you to, in your mind right now on a piece of paper, identify what is your cause. And then think about what is your protest. So again, there are different ways to contribute to the movement. There's marching in the streets. There's writing articles and op-eds. There's using your college focus to study a particular issue of injustice. Some people make videos and post them on social media. Some people are speaking up in their classrooms, in their work environment, and other places of work. And some are contributing or protesting in a way of raising the consciousness of others. So I'm going to give you 1 minute on the clock, and we're going to come back to this later, because I want you to take a moment to think about your cause, what is your protest, and to select a medium that you are going to create in. So this could be something digital. We'll only have about 5 minutes though. Something digital, it could be poetry. You could write a letter to yourself or to someone else, or you can sketch or paint something, depending on what you have in front of you and what your medium of art making will be. So let me give you 1 minute on the clock. What is your cause and what is your protest? Asking you to identify what is your cause, what are you fighting for, and what is your form of protest? Okay, so pause and hold that to the side. We will come back to it. I want to bring Robin Kelly, historian and Professor Robin Kelly, into the room, who actually just received $250,000 to advance the work that he's doing in service of justice, freedom, and social change. He is a Freedom Scholar Award winner, and in his book, Freedom Dreams, where he looks at the role and the power of Black artists in terms of changing society. And I want you to think about this in terms of yourself. Without new visions, we don't know what to build, only what to knock down. We not only end up confused, rudderless, and cynical, but we forget that making a revolution is not a series of clever maneuvers and tactics, but a process that can and must transform us. And that's from his book, Freedom Dreams, The Black Radical Imagination. So what I wanted to do today is to share with you the fact that some of you may already know this, but Black people have always used their art as activism. They've always seen whatever their field of interest is, whatever their occupation, whether it is teaching, because teachers are artists, dancing, choreography, sculpting, painting, music, science, literature, poetry, and acting, whatever the occupation, they've always seen what they do directly connected to the freedom of their people. And I see my work, I see my teaching in the same vein. And so in the opening of Love from the Vortex and Other Poems, I have an epigraph that says, I write to free and heal myself. Sister Toni Morrison reminded us that when you get these jobs, whatever occupation you are in, when you get these jobs that you have been so brilliantly trained for, just remember that your real job is that if you are free, you need to free someone else. And so I thought about the different writers and scholars and artivists over time who have used their art to free others as they have found freedom within themselves. So this is our interactive moment. I have a couple of slides, about 3 or 4 slides, just in the chat, and we're going to move quickly, but just type in some of the names that you recognize, some of the faces that you recognize. Let's lift up some of these, and these are inspirations, but I have to tell you that when we look at what Black people have contributed, whatever the field is, there are literally thousands of names, too many for me to mention here, but these are just a few that either I personally know them or I have been intimate with their writing and their knowing about their scholarship in my own pursuit of freedom. So let's just take a moment, put in the chat some names that you recognize. And so these artivists are poets and writers and cultural workers. Let's continue adding to the chat. And these are some artworks of painters, of quilters, and sculptors who are artivists, who use their art making as a way to help to free others, to tell stories of freedoms, to use the Black radical imagination to protest what is happening, to use their artwork in a way to speak up against what is wrong and what is unjust. So just add to the chat, continue adding. Who do you recognize? There's some work here of Bisa Butler, of Aaron Douglas, of Jacob Lawrence, Romeo Bearden, Faith Ringgold. And these artivists, these are artivists who use the world of fashion, the world of dance, the world of performance art, acting, or playwriting. Just take a moment, add to the chat. Who do you recognize? Again, it was really, really difficult for me to choose, but again, these are folks that either I know of them personally, I've seen their work, I've read their work, I've had some intimacy. In the case of Fubu, I've worn those clothes. Fubu of the 80s and 90s. Definitely, I'm a child of the 80s and 90s and had quite a few from the Fubu collection. But again, they see their work not just as fashion designers. So in the case of Fubu, for us, by us, it was very clear and very direct that they were making clothes for Black people to lift up the Black experience, to help to create clothing that beautifully fits the Black body. And it was a statement in a very racist world of fashion design that they're going to unapologetically be focused on Blackness. That is using their art of fashion design as activism. And then there are musicians. So again, continue in the chat. Who do you recognize? Right, from the Fisk Jubilee Singers to Talib Kweli, formerly of Black Star, to Public Enemy, Queen Latifah and Moni Love, Mahalia Jackson, Stevie Wonder, and Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. So in this next exercise, this is a listening exercise. I want you can close your eyes, feel comfortable. If your screen is on, I'll be seeing you shortly, but you can, if you feel that it's easier to listen with your screen off, I'm going to play 2 songs. And what I want you to consider is the deep work of artivism and what scholars have over time really used their art, like Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, to protest the injustices of this life. But also I'm going to play a song by Mahalia Jackson, and within the gospel tradition, or within songs that were sung by enslaved Africans, Go Down Moses, Let My People Go, that these were songs that protested what was happening in this life, but also seeking liberation and freedom through song, through representation of song for the afterlife. So let's take a listen.
It's like a jungle sometimes, it makes me wonder how I keep from going under. It's like a jungle sometimes, it makes me wonder how I keep from going under. Looking glass everywhere. People pissing on the stage, you know they just don't care. I can't take the smell, can't take the noise. Got no money to move out, I guess I got no choice. Rats in the front room, roaches in the back, junkies in the alley with the baseball bat. I tried to get away, but I couldn't get far, cause a man with a touch up repossessed my car. Don't push me, cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. Standing on the front stoop, hanging out the window, watching all the cars go by, roaring as the breezes blow. A crazy lady living in a bag, eating out of garbage pails. Used to be a fag hag, such a dance to tango. Skipped the life and dango. A zircon princess seemed to lost her senses. Down at the peep show, watching all the creeps, so she could tell her stories to the girls back home. She went to the city and got so sedity. She had to get a pimp, she couldn't make it on her own. Don't push me, cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under.
Okay, so take a moment, and if you were able to catch some of those lyrics from the message, what are some of the things that they were protesting against? What were some of the things, the conditions that they were protesting against? Just jot that down. And so artivism, as I mentioned, spans in this life and goes beyond to the next life. But only we need to look at some of our gospel singers over time who have lifted up their voices to speak to and to sing about the injustices that are happening, and at the same time have projection, most of the time for King Jesus, for the life after, where there would be no more suffering. But it's important to know that particularly Mahalia Jackson was a consultant to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. So although she was very well known in the gospel world, she also met with Dr. King several times. They were very good friends, and she helped him to strategize many of the protests that he was a part of. So let's take a listen if we can. And I want you to specifically think about how these two works of art may be speaking to each other.
Soon I will be done. Trouble of the world, trouble of the world, trouble, Lord, of the world. How sooner will be done. Trouble, Lord, of the world. I'm going home to live with God. No more weeping and wailing. No more weeping and wailing. No more weeping and wailing. I'm going home to live with my Lord. Lord.
I'll give you a moment just to sort of take in what Mahalia was saying, what she was imagining, the liberation that she was projecting that would happen in the life after, knowing that the life during her era, and certainly one would argue now that Black people were enduring, was filled with injustice. I write in the tradition of poetry. I've been writing poetry for about 35 years, but only called myself a poet just a few years ago. And part of that was with the creation of Love from the Vortex and the Peace Chronicles. It was those poems, actually, many of them came out of journals that I've been keeping for years. And the last 4 chapters of Love from the Vortex really chronicled relationships, troubling relationships that I found myself involved in. And I was trying to write myself into understanding why did I find myself in this position? Why was I not loving myself in the way that I should be loving myself? So I just wanted to share here, again, there are literally thousands of books, particularly written by Black poets, who use the medium of poetry as to take up causes, to protest, and also, as Robin Kelly mentioned, to freedom dream, a different kind of world where Black people do not suffer the injustices just because of the color of our skin. These are two poems that I've written. One is from the Peace Chronicles, and the other is from Love from the Vortex. And for me, these are two of the many in both books that I write about the protesting of police brutality, the assault on Black bodies. It is my opportunity to fight against the injustices that I see in education, but in society at large. American dreams. As America talks about humanity, theirs, but not quite ours, let's remember Brianna and Ahmaud, Trayvon and Sandra, Kayla and Tamir, Mother Eleanor and Brother Amadou, all shot down like rabid dogs, angelic and Black, mistaken for red and blue demons and white dreams. But I will lift my pen and my voice to resist and persist in resistance and remember their innocence, going about their daily lives, sitting, jogging, walking, driving, resting, working, and playing while Black and blue and white reigned in terror, snatching breaths and quiet lives when no one and everyone looked on in silent amazement. Just us. These are from my educators. Here is my invitation for you to bend towards justice. My arc of self bends in favor of love, asking hard questions and waiting for answers that don't offer conclusions, just more wonderings about how to live a life worthy of the children who come after us. Robin Kelly says that the question remains, what are today's young activists dreaming about? We know what they are fighting against, but what are they fighting for? And I thought about my work in the Peace Chronicles and Love from the Vortex, and it is very clear that I was fighting against this lack of self-knowledge that I had for myself and a lack of self-love. And very clear that I am fighting for, in the publication of these books, I'm fighting for the healing of myself and the healing of others. So I'm going to come off screen for a moment because I'd like to see some of you and have this be a little bit more intimate. I'm going to quickly read 3 poems before I invite you to, and maybe you're thinking about your own work, your own poetry, or maybe you're sketching as I've been talking, maybe you're pulling together digital images, but I'm hoping that I'll give you some time and we'll have an opportunity to share some of your artivism work. Let me start. So if you'd like to be seen on camera, Perry, I see my dear friend Perry, Susan. See, this is the beautiful thing, right? About coming off of screen when you can see these beautiful faces. Kaylee, thank you for being here. And Jen, Sheba, I see your name. I see you, Angela. Thank you, Milka, Eric. I see all of these beautiful people. Tasneem, I see you. Random thoughts. And this is joy, joy and love. Hello, Taliba, hello. Random thoughts of you permeate my private moments, interrupt my rhythm, intrude on my carefully crafted world. Random thoughts of you transform my mind's mundane conversations into interesting chatter, words uncertain and unfamiliar. These thoughts pull me into fantasy and wonder, dreaming what it would be like to feel you, have you, take me to the forbidden places that exist only in my mind, a place not even safe to discuss during a private conversation with myself. Yeah, that was very joyful. Let me just say, before I go to the next poem, which talks a little bit about pain, I want to give a shout out to my dear friend, Dr. Perry Green. A few slides ago, I had a picture of musicians, and Talib Kweli was one of those musicians who inspire me, who is an artivist, who puts his body on the line, who uses his music to speak firmly and forcefully for the beauty of Black bodies. Dr. Perry Green is his father. And so Perry, I love you deeply. Perry was one of my teachers. You remain one of my teachers, and thank you for, you've brought two beautiful men into the world. One a law professor who's fighting, like Charles will be fighting on that end, and of course, Talib. So thank you, Perry, for being here, and thank you for your life. Semi-present. Every few days or so, you slip into a vortex and disappear. On this end, I wonder, where have you been? With whom? Have you met them or yourself in a place you go to cry, laugh, or just be? And just as I decide to pull away and enter absence, you reappear. I hear your smile and slightly, but never completely, start loving you again. So that was a little bit of pain, and then the liberation of it all, leaving the vortex. My passion for you is no longer useful now that you know my potential to love you. I will not slip again into sadness. I will not write streams of consciousness that spiral my heart into the vortex. I am grateful for the vortex. It has served me well. It is now time to leave it behind and discover what beauty awaits. And of course, all of these poems, we can talk about the joy, the pain, and the liberation of the causes that we take up, of those causes that we put our bodies and our minds and our jobs on the line for. And that's what I want to have you do. I'm going to go back on screen. We have some time. I want to give you about maybe 5 minutes or so. And I want you to, again, at the beginning, when I asked you, what is your cause? What is your protest? Oh, I want to share this too before we get to that. Here's the beautiful thing. When you are authentic and you're doing work that you love, you're doing work that represents who you are, it is a gift that continues to give. I am grateful that there have been two art exhibitions around Love from the Vortex and the Peace Chronicles held at the Macy Gallery at Columbia University. I have also extended my creativity and my thinking. I have created an IG TV show where I interviewed undergraduates, scholars, people from all walks of life about what they believe love is. We read poetry together and they share their thoughts on love. I have created through a candle maker, Dr. Kiana Cutts, a scent for Love from the Vortex and a scent for the Peace Chronicles. Love from the Vortex has been read and it is available in Audible. It took me 48 hours to read all of the poems, set to original sound and music by Willie Mosqueda, a Grammy nominated guitarist and percussionist. And music is healing to me. And also music, as I showed the musicians and artists and dancers, that is how we also protest, right? Every protest, if you think about the 60s, if you think about the Black Lives Matter movement, there are soundtracks, there are songs that have been created that reflect the power, right? And the energy of the movement. And so as I was going through these experiences with the men and moving from the vortex to my own healing and my own peace, it was clear that music played a large role in that. And so there are actually 3 Spotify lists: Love from the Vortex and Other Poems, another one called Yoli in the Vortex, and the Peace Chronicles. I've also created through a great team, merchandise, t-shirts that say Peace Seeker, just really different creative ways of putting out this idea of self-healing, self-love, and self-knowledge. what I'm most excited about is that there has been a team of young people and their teacher that have spent the last year writing a curriculum on love from the Vortex. And we are in conversation with folks at the National Council of Teachers of English to publish this curriculum written by high school students, for students, normalizing the discussion of love and healing in classrooms. And this week, actually tomorrow, the team and the teacher and I, we will be hosting an online session called Love and Healing. Really, the team, the young people will be leading it. I just show up to read a poem or two, just to talk about their process of spending 1 year of their life reading and rereading the book and creating curriculum for students to talk about love. And so with that, as I look at our time, we have about 5 minutes to go. So I want those of you who have been thinking about the last 20 minutes, what is your cause? What is your protest? And just give you a few minutes to sketch something or write something down. Again, it could be a letter to yourself or someone else. It could be a short poem. It could be a sketch. And then we'll come together and we'll share in our last minutes. So in your medium of choice, create something reflecting your own artivism. I see you, Judy. I hope your beautiful Zuri is nearby. I see you, Raven. Beautiful teachers and people. One more minute, and I want to congratulate Susan Pope, who is an extraordinary artist and defended a dissertation proposal at Teachers College last week. Susan, we are proud of you and we send you energy. Okay, so if anyone is willing to come off camera, stay on camera, be lovely to see your faces before we go, if you're able to share. But what is your artivism? What is your cause? What is your protest? And in these few moments, feeling mostly like seconds, what did you create? Share with us. Don't be shy, we're practically family. We've been together for at least 25 minutes now.
I can share.
Wonderful. Tasneem, wonderful. Talk to us.
Yes. So my cause is environmental justice. And I'm a high school science teacher who's currently focusing on, well, I just passed my CERT exam. So hopefully I'll get to do the defense, the oral defense, and then the proposal next semester. But my protest is through my pedagogy, and I like to work with young people, with my students as my co-researchers, and we create social media posts about environmental justice to educate our communities.
Beautiful. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Another brilliant scholar, teacher. Thank you. Let's fit in as many as we can. Who else would like to share?
I'll share. I'm Betty.
Hey, Betty.
Hi, Queen. I'm
Hello.
so happy I was able to make this.
I'm so glad you're here.
So what am I supposed to answer? I'm excited.
Yeah, so whatever you want to share, like what's your cause, sis? What's your protest?
So
What did you create anything that you want to share with the community?
I did. I'm driving, so I had to check in, but I did design in my mind through strengthening children and families in community activism. So at the baseline of where people feel the struggle and don't really articulate it, we provide spaces for voices.
Beautiful.
So that's what I want to say. Yeah, and I've also added homeschool. And you know, I'm an educator of adults, but now part of what we do in our homeschool environment is talk about that as a way to bolster family and fight oppression.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you,
Thank
Betty.
you. Okay.
We still have 2 minutes. Another voice, and Perry, of course, I would not put you on the spot, but you know, I also want to open space before we leave if there's anything you wanted to share. And if Dr. Green would like to share something before we get to him, anyone else, let's squeeze it in.
I'll share.
Hey,
First of all, I am amazed at when I'm in your presence, what I'm able to create. So just thank you. Thank you for that. So my cause is privileging the body in education. I'm a dance educator. So I just wrote something really quick. I wrote, I'm wrapped in wisdom, clothed in joy. My body has a voice. Do you hear it? Do you see it?
so y'all know if we had another hour, this place would be lit, right? You know, it would be like breaking out in like poetry and song and everything. Thank you, Susan. Absolutely beautiful. Another voice before we potentially get to Dr. Green. I'm looking at the clock. We have 1 minute. I'm
share.
typing it. Yes, Angela, I was hoping you would. I've been looking at your eyes all the time.
So my cause is Black people's access to material resources and reshaping society to reflect everyone's humanity. I'm a sociologist by training with a policy background. And my protest is my work as a scholar, research and writing, teaching, and also working through the church to pair social science and theology to think about the roles of the church in liberation. And then also just, you know, being supportive of people on the front lines of social change. And so I wrote a letter to myself. I say, keep pressing to live out your purpose. I see how you probe, how your heart palpitates at the idea of breakthrough, at last breakthrough. Know that the journey is within and outside.
Beautiful. Can we give it up? Let's use some emojis, something for, y'all heard I said something. For Susan, for Angela, for Tasneem, for Charles, for everyone who shared. And Dr. Perry Green would love to end with you if you have anything you'd like to share with the community. Oh, and come off of mute, Perry. You know, we're living in this Zoom world.
There you go.
Yeah.
So two poems came to mind. I'm not going to read them because of time. So that's everybody's homework assignment. I'm sure you know these two poems. One is Harlem by Langston Hughes, who I knew, and County Cullen's poem, Incident. And the reason those came to mind is when Yolanda asked, so what is your cause? My cause has always been the preservation of Black youth for the last 50 years. And also the reduction of Black trauma. And I look at these two poems, they get at those two issues. Langston Hughes, Black youth, particularly the last line, and County Cullen's Incident as a example of Black trauma. So I very much appreciate your work, and I'm so glad that I could join you.
Thank you, Dr. Green. And can you just say your affiliation with Adelphi University?
I was the vice president for diversity and inclusion at Adelphi University, and I started the office of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I'm very proud of the work it's doing. It is for the 4th year in a row. It's won the HEAT Award, and I'm also proud because the first time they ran it, I was the vice president of that office. So they've kept that going, and I'm pleased about that.
Thank you. What a wonderful way to end. I turn it back over to the ARTIVISM team. I thank each and every one of you. Eric, thank you for coming on screen. I see your beautiful face. Each and every one of you for being here. You could have been anywhere and you chose to be with us. Thank you and God bless you. Back over to the ARTIVISM team.
All right, well, thank you so much, Dr. Yolanda Sealey Ruiz, for being our artivist today. It was a fantastic presentation, and it really motivated me to be a change agent for social change. This presentation is the closing event for the fall 2021 ARTIVISM season. Please stay on for the ARTIVISM party. And as always, stay tuned for the spring 2022 season. Before we open up the floor to questions for our presenters, we ask that you participate in the short poll that should be popping up on your screen momentarily. For more information on this and all of the series' past and upcoming events, please go to our website, www.adelphi.edu/ARTIVISM, or just search Adelphi and ARTIVISM. Follow us on Instagram at ARTIVISM for Shared Humanity, and our YouTube channel is ARTIVISM for Shared Humanity. We are also hosting an open call art installation for all creative thinkers in our Instagram. If you would like to get more involved in this fantastically ongoing initiative, please contact the ARTIVISM team at artivism@adelphi.edu. I would now like to ask if there are any questions for our artivists. Please use the raise hand function on Zoom, unmute yourself, or simply ask your question in the Zoom chat. And thank you all for coming today.
Any questions, y'all? Or we can use this time for y'all to extend and say some more about your own work. How long do we have, Charles? Does it end officially at 5:30?
So we have until 5:30, and then I believe there's the party, but RG might be able to answer that better. I don't know the scheduling for
Professor RG?
Yes, we could take whatever time we need. No worries. We could go, 20 minutes to a half hour late. That's fine. Thank you all for being here. This is wonderful. Thank you for sharing your poetry. We could continue on with the conversation.
I would love to take at least the next 10 minutes for those who can stay, for them to bring their voices in and just share. So I'd like to go on silent, actually, unless anyone has a question, and just have us share some more. It's a gift.
I would also like to invite anyone here who would like to present at ARTIVISM. You can contact us at artivism@adelphi.edu. I will put it in the chat again. We pretty much are booked for the spring, but we have dates available in the fall. So hopefully we'll keep on going. As long as people want to be heard and want to present, we will be here to keep going.
Y'all hear that? Okay, talk to us. Anyone want to share? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? Usually I have probes, right? The 4 probes would be what struck you? Like if you think about our time together, which was only about 45 minutes. What struck you? What are you wondering? What connections are you making? And how would you like to continue this conversation? So we can enter in that way unless someone wants to share. But what struck you about this time we had together? What are you now wondering? Connections? How would you like to continue this conversation on ARTIVISM?
I'll jump in if that's okay.
Hey, Kaylee, great that you're here. Hey.
I think it's really neat when you asked us to share out with a cause and like what our protest is, how people interpreted that question. I noticed that some people wrote letters to themselves and others wrote like little bits of poems. And I just thought it was really neat to kind of see what people did with those 2 things, because I feel like that speaks a lot to how we intake and how we choose to kind of share out to the world as well.
Beautiful. Kaylee, would you like to share your cause and your protests?
Oh, yes. So my cause, I would say, is healing-centered community cultivation. And my protests, the mediums through which I'm most comfortable doing that are poetry and research. And I guess something that I'm thinking about is I have a question that I've kind of been turning over in my mind recently. So it's the idea of how might we who are rootless cultivate abundance from moments to create home spaces? So So how did moments come together to create home?
Yeah, when I hear home and home spaces, maybe some of y'all are with me. You know, I think about Bell Hooks, and I think about her work around home place and how it is important that we create home places for ourselves and for each other. Beautiful question, Kaylee.
Thank you.
Absolutely worth focusing your research on. We need it. Other thoughts? Haiti, thank you for coming in, sis. Saw that you came in a little while ago. Just glad that you're here. Anyone else want to share? What are you wondering? Think out loud with us. Share out loud with us.
I would like to thank everyone for coming and being here. As Dr. Sealey Ruiz mentioned, you could have been anywhere, but we're here and having a marvelous conversation that has to happen. And not only here, but everywhere. So I would like to go back to Miss Pope's description.
You
that
know
she
whose stuff
shared.
is in the
And in that poem, she said, you know, your body, right? And I was thinking that every single day in our actions, in our environment, in our context, that is your art. How you present yourself, how you're inspiring others. Are you bringing smiles? Are you bringing a helping hand? Even not, you know, trying to be fixing everything up, just by the way you're acting and the way you're presenting with your demeanor, right? So thank you, Ms. Pope, and thank you, Dr. Sealey Ruiz, and everyone here for sharing all that powerful insight. I don't know the word, you can help me with it, but all that wonderful energy that we have within, that we're just pushing down for some reason. Everything, like Dr. Sealey Ruiz said, is inside of us. What are we waiting for? Come on, let's start this change and let's get it going. Let's do it in your context where you are. That's where it needs to happen. And then from there, little by little, it will start changing society.
Yes, Carolina, I had to get off of mute to say yes. WYAS, like yes. What are we waiting for? Are we ready to make a difference? Are we ready to be an ancestor that people talk about, to say she did her best?
That's right. That's right. And that, like, just for you, because I love that quote that you brought up earlier today. Once you're freed, freed others. Use your power, not just for you, not just to make six-figure checks. Do it so that you can better the life of someone else. That is the whole purpose. That's the only way that we're going to be able to break with all these systemic oppressions that have been happening in our society.
Yes. 5 more minutes, wonderful people. What are we thinking? What are we feeling? What are we wondering? What are we hoping? What are we dreaming?
I know I've already spoken, but I have to come off.
Yes.
I needed to do more than a yes. You hear that applause? You hear that applause happening? You hear that applause?
Yes,
Betty.
Betty.
I want to say it. I want to applaud everyone on this call, as well as Adelphi, but especially you, for just acknowledging that we're good as we are to move forward in our work. So the previous person said it so well, but I think it bears mentioning that by doing it, we give the other one permission to step forward. And I think that's the most beautiful thing about this. And the connection for me was the imagery, the music, the word. So it gives people permission in however they express it to move forward. So thank you all, and right on.
Yes, Betty, thank you. Betty, you are amazing. Someone who loves her community, has created spaces for poetry and other stories to be told, and has incredibly talented daughters, including one. I don't want to put all your business in the street, but you know, she's dancing at the Met, a beautiful ballerina, just brilliant. And Betty, you are an inspiration.
Thank you, Queen.
Mm-hmm.
I can share what I'm wondering about unless someone else wants to go. I don't want to take up more space if someone hasn't spoken yet.
Love your energy, Sister Angela. It's just beautiful looking at your face.
Oh, thanks.
Yes, yes.
Well, one of the things that I'm wondering about, I think I said earlier, I'm a sociologist. I'm often meditating on different permutations of power if I had to distill it to one word. And so I guess one of the things that is on my heart is, I love the expansiveness of creativity in this room. And so I'm always thinking about how do I, get outside of the sort of research policy oriented track, which is my sort of traditional track. And then at the same time, I think one of my contributions is to give us more precision and understanding how racism and capitalism work hand in glove. And so one of the terms that we often talk about in my courses is this idea of complicity, that we're both using systems of oppression and yet at the same time trying to liberate ourselves from them. And so, what does it look like to honor both the opportunities and the constraints in that? And I loved the prompt from Dr. Kelly and thinking about, how do we imagine freedom? So for me, I get there through my Christian through my Christian discipleship, of really thinking about things like the beloved community. And one of the words that really rests on me that allows me to sort of stretch is this idea of shalom, which is, nothing is missing and nothing is broken, in mishpat, which is flourishing, right? So I think that a lot of Black feminist scholars think in these terms. And so anyway, so was just kind of meditating on, what does it look like to flourish and to hold space for that? And yet to think practically about that, like what are the social structures, the physical structures we need to make that happen, and sort of build as we fly and break as we fly and all that's required in that. Yeah.
I was just thinking as you were talking, Dr. Angela, how much I would love to attend an ARTIVISM presentation that you would offer. And any talks that you would offer. And so I'm wondering if there's a way that in this community that we can be in touch with each other somehow, know when things are happening with each other and support one another. But I would love to come to an ARTIVISM talk that you give in talking just as, what you were sharing. So there's so much talent, there's so much wisdom, there's so much power right among us. Right. The thing is, we are always being kind of separated and running here and running there. But when we collectively come together and dare to dream, dare to call things out, dare to push things forward, that's when we make change. That's when we make change. That's what's I find most fulfilling and amazing about this, even in this moment of chaos and continues. We've been seeing this for 400 years. So we're not new to this. We're not new to this, but there's a different energy that is happening. I just want us to capitalize on that and to continue to raise our consciousness and the consciousness of others to bring about the change that is needed. We are the ones. June Jordan, we are the ones that we've been waiting for. So with that, it is 5:30. Thank you so much, Dr. Argy. Thank you, Carolina. Thank you all. Eric, I see you popped off. Is there anything you want to share? You came on screen. Another brilliant, brilliant brother, brilliant artivist. We are power here, y'all. Mm-hmm. We are power.
Dr. Sealey Ruiz, before we go, I know this is going to be hard, but would you share with us just one key takeaway for action that our audience could put in place?
Yeah. Two, I'll give two. Know yourself and don't be afraid.
Love it.
Know yourself and don't be afraid. That's it.
That's great and so very hard to do. Mm-hmm. First, to love yourself as you are. Mm-hmm. And then not to be afraid, right? Not to be afraid what people think or if they like what you're doing, or just do it. Just do it.
Right. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Please, please, please. There are so many wonderful people here. Please, Ms. Sims, please, Mr. Parsons. If you'd like to present at ARTIVISM, email us. We would love to give you this platform, this opportunity, to present. This was a wonderful meeting. I will just very quickly share my screen to do a review of what we've done in the past, actually just the fall, not from the beginning. So give me one second.
Before we go there, yes. Can we have a shout out to our marvelous student ambassador? Let's hear it. Come on.
Yes, Charles.
Go, Charles. Hey.
Charles, I want you to stay on for just a couple minutes.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay,
I'm driving, but I'm here.
There is something for you at the end. So here you go.
You guys are too kind.
Charles, you know what? I wish 1/100th of the people in this world had your passion for what they do. I admire you. I think you're incredibly brave. You're outspoken. I really wish there were more students like you, people. So Artivism, you can email us at artivism@adelphi.edu. You can visit our landing page, our YouTube channel for past events, Instagram. So this is our end of fall 2021 Artivism party via Zoom. These are our videos. Artivism is very, very proud. We've done all this in less than a year. I think there are about 40 videos up. This fall season began, sorry, they're a little bit out of order. What we do is after the presentation, we upload the video, but then we also post these what you missed on our social media. This was the first event from Ecuador. The keynote speaker was Dr. Eva Haller. We had Alyssa Wright, Theater for Social Change fundraising, which was very, very interesting because she gave her perspective of fundraising using her theater background, how to speak, right? Her body language, public speaking, how to present. We had Irini Linavaki, who zoomed in from Greece, as she did again today. So there were times where it was past midnight in Greece and she was a participant and also a presenter. She presented her Occupy art project, which Artivism will be a part of. Occupy will take place at the Greek consulate, the French consulate in New York City. If you'd like, we have your email. You can give us the email again in the chat. We can contact you because we will have a call for art very soon. We had Emmanuel Sinardet zooming in from Paris, France. The Adelphi University Fall Arts Festival, where we had a roundtable event. It did incredibly well. We had several speakers actually zoom in, one because of COVID, the other from Greece. Ecuador again, Joyce Sanchez and Rafael Navarrete, who spoke about the, the oil spill, Chevron oil spill. They were incredibly brave presenting and wanting to put this up on YouTube. Irini again, Public Art as a Commune. Movement Matters, Paz Tanhuacuello. It was incredible. Susan Campos Fonseca from Ecuador. We also had the keynote speaker, Rodrigo E. Carozzo. He is the permanent representative of Costa Rica to the United Nations. She spoke about music and I guess also the gender and music, right? That discrepancy, her being told when she was young, she couldn't play certain instruments because those were not instruments girls could play. And she broke all the rules. She's amazing. We had the classroom at the intersection of art history, social justice with Dr. Zaccarini, Art Jones, and Nashawn Jackson. My students are working on creating arts programs for this initiative. Artful Coalitions through Socially Engaged Arts with Sydney McGuire and Ann Holt. The Talisman Project, a Columbia University graduate. She spoke about her project and creating a talisman, a piece of art, right? A sculpture, or it was through 3D printing, creating something that's dear to you. Maine Inside Out. This also is an incredible organization out of Maine, working with youths that are incarcerated. Oh, sorry. Okay, today's, thank you so very much. Yes, I will edit this video and we will upload it. So what we did, collaboration. We hoped to inspire. We wanted thought-provoking conversations. We wanted our participants to take action, right? Being inspired to take action. We provided network building, internships for our students and our young people. An Artivism Club was created at Adelphi University. They just finished their logo the other day. I think this is the one they will use, and student ambassadors like Charles Herman, and we even had a high school student a few weeks ago that was a student ambassador. Our students, we had Faith Coleman, who worked with Felicia's Promise, who was a student at Adelphi. Another one who also interned, she did 150 hours internship for college credit for Felicia's Promise. And Rowan McKiernan, I will read her poem at the end. We helped organize with Charles' incredible energy to provide clothes for those that needed them. No questions asked. They came in, they took whatever they needed for internships, for just to wear, proper attire when needed, interviews. This is what was left. This is what was left. And what was brought in went very quickly. We had other faculty members at Adelphi bring items in, family and friends bring more items. And even with all of that, this is all that was left. And Charles, this is your certificate. It will be printed out and presented to you and to all of the student ambassadors and those that created the posters. So spring 2022 begins on February 7th. The poster design is coming soon because we believe you are never too young to teach Artivism, to inspire our youth. I want to read just a little blurb from their teachers. Kindergarten students at the first Peloponnesos, Greece, kindergarten were invited to create the spring 2022 poster for Artivism. They expressed what they learned about human rights and the freedom of artistic expression. Their teachers presented many visual examples of art and artistic styles from around the world and throughout history. What they were most impressed by was the sculpture of nonviolence, also known as the knotted gun, at the United Nations in New York City. So they are never too young to start thinking, right? To create, to inspire. So Rowan McKiernan wrote a poem for Felicia's Promise that was read at Felicia's gala about 2 weeks ago. Here we rise, adversity, misfortune, difficulties, 3 words that mean the same thing. They say we should show courage in the face of adversity, but they will never tell us how to accomplish this goal. How do we pick ourselves up when the world seems like it wants nothing more than for us to be down? How do we strive when striving seems like an unattainable goal, something just outside the reach of tangible? How do we rise under the finger of adversity? How do we unify what has been divided for so long? How do we become seen in a world that refuses to see us? When the world seems against us, when all the winning cards fail to make their way into our hands, when life has given lemons to everyone else, where do we turn? We turn inside. The only person who can save us is us. So what do? We stand up, we straighten our crowns, and we remember exactly who we are. We are unstoppable forces in the face of adversity, unbreakable and unshakable. When they tell us we can't, we laugh and we show them that we can. We will not be silent. We will be seen. We will rise up, and one day the world will know our names. We will give ourselves a chance because we are unique individuals with the power to change the world. We are coming, ready or not, we are here. This is by Rowan McKiernan. She was our student ambassador. She is one of the co-founders of the Artivism team, Artivism Club. And I wanted just to make one little note. Rowan never shared her poetry until she served as a student ambassador and found her voice. So this is where we close. I think this is a beautiful way to close with Rowan's poem. Thank you all so very much for being with us. Please come back. Join us again when we come back in the fall. We hope to hear from you. Carolina? Oh, and thank you. One more thing. Thank you to Adelphi University's web team for updating. Every time I send them something, they do their best to put it up right away. Even when others say, you need 2 weeks, they do it in 24 hours or less. Thank you to Sing for Hope and Gottesman Libraries at the Teachers College at Columbia University. Thank you, Carolina. Thank you for bringing this. Thank you for bringing me in. You have changed my life. Thank you also to Stephanie Lake, the director of the Criminal Justice Program. Thank you, everyone.
Let's hear it for Professor RG. Come on, hey.
Thank you, Professor RG and Carolina and everyone. Thank you for having me, and Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays. I know that Hanukkah is over, but for those of you who celebrated, I hope it was a beautiful Hanukkah, Kwanzaa and Christmas to come, and a great new year. May we all be safe.
Yes,
that's
safe
right.
and healthy. Thank you. Be well.
Dr. Sealey Ruiz, thank you all.
You're
Bye-bye.
welcome. Bye, Eric. Eric, out.
Thank you.
All right.